right. Today is always a day that we were kidding around today. It's some people thinking it should be a national holiday, including my two kids that brought breakfast up here for us today. They wanted to skip school. But what's cool about today is when you get to finally talk publicly about a lot of the kids that you've spent a lot of time recruiting. And for us and our staff, this is the third recruiting class that we've had, and spending the whole year on it. And so a lot of these kids we have recruited for a long, long time. And so it's fun to finally talk about them publicly and be able to announce them and, talk about them and answer any questions about them. And I think the biggest thing that stands out with me with these kids that we're announcing today is their length. I mean, if you look on there, I think there's two kids at 5'11" that we measured, or they measured out during camps or whatever at 5'11". Everybody else is long. The athleticism, O-line was a big need for us. As we look at our offensive line, we have 5 juniors in that class. We needed a couple young linebackers and a couple young receivers, and those 4 that are coming in, one of those linebackers being 2 backers, 2 receivers, one of the backers, the third one, Daniel Longy, being a mission kid. We'll get back in a couple years, but I think all 4 of those are very, very talented young players. But when I look at the O-line, I'm very, very happy with that area because in a couple years that's going to be very depleted, and so that needed to be a focus in this class, just like linebacker is going to be next year a little bit in this class. The junior college kids that are in here right now, the 4 we've already announced them obviously at break, but they've been with Dave Scholes in the weight room for now going on 4 weeks because we start this semester so early, and that's been the best thing. Those 4 guys, along with Dallin Levitt, the transfer, and they've been going, and all 4 of those guys that are eligible. Dallin obviously has to sit out, but the 4 guys on offense are going to compete for immediate playing time on offense this spring. Devontae Mays at running back, Chris Copier at tight end, and then Brooksby and Jude, the 2 O-linemen. So, and I know we've talked about those guys, but that's as we develop this program, the junior college kids are always going to be a part of this, of the foundation of this program, in my opinion, because they're always going to be able to fill needs from a depth standpoint that maybe through mission kids and some things you may be waiting a year or 2 or another semester on some kids because of the mission program. So the way the junior college kids fit into our equation will always be an important one. We won't base our classes off junior college kids, but they'll all, I think, play key roles in filling in needs. And then, the other one that's a transfer, Ben Wysocki, that's, I know, the one that we're all excited about. We had Ben in here last week on an official visit, and this was a perfect fit for him. He had a very good career at UCLA. He's played all 3 offensive line positions, tackle, guard, and center. So he brings a lot of versatility. He's very extremely smart. He's graduating there in March, and will be, our offensive line guys, they got to know him real good over the weekend, this past weekend, and it was perfect. And so that guy will walk in just because of his versatility and be able to compete pretty quickly in a number of spots. And so it'll be allow us some flexibility with our returners to put those guys in a good spot. So, I see O-line and I see the 2 linebackers and the receivers because of needs. Quickly as being key parts of this recruiting class. And, I'm never going to be the guy to sit here and tell you on signing day, because everybody else on Twitter is saying it, that you got everybody you wanted, because that's never the case. And if that's the case at Utah State, I'm not sure we're going after the right kids. But we got some. We flipped some, just like we did last year, which is always fun, the last 48 hours. And some kids chose to go play at other places. And so it's part of the process. It happens everywhere, but I'm always the guy that, you're always concerned more now today about the ones that are on that sheet of paper that we're going to talk about. And but it's good. So I'll go ahead and open it up. I was going to talk about. You don't want me to talk about every. You want me to talk about every one of them? No. Let you guys start firing away some questions, and let's visit about these guys individually for a while.
The one position I know you really wanted was safety going in. Where are you at then with that position? Not really announcing.
We've got a kid that's it's a combo kid that hopefully we're talking about later this afternoon and tonight. We've got a couple of old school fax machine problems going on right now as we speak, so we'll have another kid by the end of the day today. And then we actually have one that we're going to hold, and we're going to keep looking for another spot back in there in the secondary. So it's kind of where we're at right now.
So only one spot you're holding for?
I'm not going to get into these specific numbers because you guys all like doing the math, but there's parts of this class that, is out there because of our abnormal recruiting. We've got kids that are counting in this class that Doug's not going to release, that 10 of them played football at Utah State this year and helped us win 10 games. So they have to count because of our abnormal recruiting. We got it already going on next year. So if you want to say that we've got 9 kids committed already in next year's class, it's technically a true statement. Y'all like that, don't you? So there's some kids like that. We do have a couple that we're kind of holding back. And I'm not going to get into specific numbers because things change, especially with missions. And that's where you have to allow for some flexibility on kids coming back and kids leaving. So there's flexibility on both ends with mission kids, and that usually affects those initial scholarships.
Do you have mission guys coming back this next year? How many? Do you have any idea?
We do. We got 4 coming back, actually 5, whether they start first thing in August or they start in January will kind of depend again on their return date. Most of them will start come January. Mm-hmm. And those are kids that we signed our first year, 2 years ago. Yep.
With Wade Meekum, I know he didn't start playing until his sophomore year of high school. So what do you see out of his raw talent and how will he fit?
That kid can run. That's the first thing that got our attention is we had him in camp last summer, and that was one of those camp stories where a kid is, he measured out at 6'5", 6'6", that may be a shade generous, but 6'5" plus, and he was 250, a little bit on the light side, and he ran a 5 flat, or maybe it was 4.98 or 5 flat, and there's 3 coaches at that line, and you gotta, come here, go run it again. And 3 more watches on him, and he ran it again, and it's like, that's not good enough. Go do it again. And that's the first thing that gets your attention is his athletic ability. He's able to run. He's got a frame that will gain weight. He's had a tremendous wrestling career. He's right in the middle of it, I guess, too, finishing that thing up. And, my experience, especially from being from Oklahoma and how big, wrestling is down in Oklahoma, I mean, I've never missed on a wrestler. So I'm not saying every wrestler can play football. I'm just saying all the good football players that are also good wrestlers, they're good. We don't miss on them, and I'm a big believer in a dual sport guy, and he's one of them. And Coach Weber, finished up recruiting him, and liked a lot of the leverage things that he can do from that standpoint. Watching that sport, and he was at one of his matches, and. That kid's going to go on a mission, and it's going to be a big kid. It's going to be a big human one day.
What position do you envision Wade playing? Guard, tackle?
He's a tackle right now, but it's one of those 2 spots. It's a little hard to say once he comes back from his mission. He goes to a country that can't eat very much. He may be starting out at left tackle, and he goes down to Oklahoma or Memphis or somewhere like that. Never know. So.
What about obviously Chad Artis?
Chad Artis,
kid,
yeah.
Very, very fast, and he's got some length too.
Chad Artis. First of all, I mean, that he goes back to what we say that we want to do. We start in the Valley first, and then we want to recruit in state. And obviously we signed I think 6 kids again from Utah this year, and we got one from Cache Valley, and That's the first one we've signed to a national letter of intent that was a non-Mormon, non-mission kid, excuse me, I think ever. So you, Grizz, can let me know if that's a true statement or not. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I should have already done my homework, but pretty sure it's pretty close. That's what they tell me over there on the other side of Main Street. Is that true?
Chris Cooley, I don't know what.
I don't know. I said a long time.
Yeah. Okay.
That's been a while.
All right.
Okay, it's been a long time. Chad Artist is a kid with real speed. Right now, today, he's a one-cut vertical guy. He can stick his toe in the ground and get vertical. He's got really good hands. He's gaining weight right now. I mean, you guys saw what he ran in the 60 a week ago. You know, that kid has got a chance to be one of the top 40, 60-meter guys in America. And he's a football player, oh, by the way. He's got real juice. And, you know, we offered him early, and he had a lot of attention and committed very early. And I'm going to say this about him, because he's about like another half a dozen, 10 kids on here. They told a lot of people no down the stretch. And, you know, there's something to be said for that, because we also lost a couple that told us yes and no. And, you know, I trust that kid. And there's some others, and if you ask me about them, I'll tell you, you know, if they're those kids too. But that kid stuck with us a long time and told people no to begin with, and told them no as the year went on. And Chad Art's going to have a very good career at Utah State. So coming in at the right time. You're a young receiver coming in at Utah State. It's the right time to come in. You know, Gerald Bright, the kid from Pensacola, high school option quarterback, played a little receiver. He's got really good hands, a lot of juice. The guy can run in space. Really good football down there at Scambia High School. Traditionally is a very, very good school. And he's a track guy. He's a guy that's in the mold of JoJo. Will come in and play slot. And so to sign the 2 freshman receivers, you know, this is a good time with 4 senior receivers ahead of him right now. So it's a good time to be a young receiver in this program.
Looks like you can't ever have too many quarterbacks either, right?
Yeah. So Cade will enroll. Cade will start in January. You know, Brett's brother, you guys all know that. Cade's a very athletic kid. He's got a lot of moxie. He's got a lot of intangibles that you don't see on the internet, and that you can't really put a price tag on either, in my opinion. And I think a lot of that is important in that quarterback room. He'll fit in perfect. He threw the ball tremendously accurate, and had a very strong arm. Threw it very well on the run when we had him in camp this summer, and really liked him. And quality young man, great family, and they've been out to visit out here. Really can't say enough good things about him. And, you know, he'll fit in with the rest of those guys. He's a winner, and he's got a lot of moxie and toughness and athletic ability about him.
Do you see Haney as being a guy who could come in and do what, like,
I don't know.
last year?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very fair question, because although that's a very lofty expectation, I wouldn't put that on the kid, but I am not going to be the guy that's going to put the frame around him and limit him either. I think it's been proven around here, you're the best player you're going to play. We've played plenty of 18-year-olds at almost every position. Not since I've been the head coach, but since I've been a coach at Utah State, we've played true freshmen. If they're the best player, they will play. His highlight tape, when you watch it, it's very reminiscent of Jalen. It's very interesting. You know, you see him returning kicks, and that look like Jalen. And he may be a shade taller than Jalen, but body type-wise, they're very similar. You know, L.A. Cathedral High School, first of all, if there's a better setting in a city for a high school stadium, that's pretty cool. You guys, anybody ever been there? It's pretty cool. You should see it, especially at night with all the lights behind it. But, you know, that's a kid that had other places to go in the Mountain West, and had a very tough choice and chose Utah State. And so we were very, very excited when we got that call last week. And but I think Cameron's got a bright future ahead of him.
What about the 2 freshman linebackers?
I love them.
Riggs and
Yeah,
you see them?
I love them. We got 3 linebackers. First of all, I'll talk about the kid in state, Daniel Longy from Bingham. You know, we all know, you know, Harvey's brother, but this kid is a talented, tough, nasty, in a good way, moms. linebacker. He's going on his mission. You know, great high school, great tradition. Another Bingham player coming to Utah State. We've had several. But this guy is the nicest guy off the field, and he's got a nasty disposition on the field. He's an inside linebacker. He could be a bench linebacker for us, but he's an inside backer. Great vision. Plays through blockers and around blockers very well. He's got a good feel for the box, and then finishes with a nasty disposition when he makes a tackle. I really like this guy. Unbelievable family. Mom is got more juice than anybody I've ever been around, I think. She's awesome. Great family. Great, tremendous support at that house, and great family. Joe Riggins, this kid has got a bright, bright future. It could be pretty quick. I don't know. If he's good enough to play early, we'll play him. I don't know where he's going to be. But this guy is an outside backer. He could play inside backer in the future because I think he's got the ability to gain weight. He's a guy really that could probably play all 4 spots in our defense in the 3-4. He's probably as close, and this is a really good compliment, to Maurice Alexander as I've seen on tape. This kid's got it. Javon Bonite did a great job recruiting him. And the way that went, you know, in the last week and really the last 24 hours was awesome. His dad is big time. Great family. Excited to bring another Florida kid. That's 2 Florida kids this year. And, you know, those guys get up here, and our Florida boys, probably as well as any state that we have in the program, our Florida boys wrap their arms around these kids, and they do all the recruiting when we get them on campus. And, you know, JoJo and LaJuan did a great job with him when he was here on campus, and I think felt very, very comfortable continuing a little bit of that Florida pipeline up here, and this kid can run. Mason Tobeck, there's another one, very similar to like some of these other kids. Turned down several other Mountain West schools and chose us. Came in the summer, came on an unofficial during the season, committed in the season, and then told several people no after he said yes to the Aggies. This kid, I really like him because he's a man of his word. First class, great mom, great dad. You know, obviously really good genes with his dad, you know, and his career, great career, and, you know, not only in college but in the pros, Pro Bowler. Tremendous support. And this kid is he's a bench linebacker, could be an inside backer. One day he may be a D end, I don't know. He keeps getting bigger and bigger. When I was sitting in his home last week on the home visit, I mean, I swear he's gotten bigger since the Air Force game when he was out here. He continues to grow. Obviously, his dad was an old lineman in the NFL, so this kid is tough, blue collar, runs the ball hard, plays with a chip on his shoulder. He's kind of like the Vigil brothers in Fackrell in that regard. He's a very, very smart player. These guys, it's a good time to be a linebacker at Utah State right now, to be a young backer in this program. So all 3 of those backers I'm happy with.
Talk about how you decide which position you end up putting somebody like a Dalton Baker and a Tobeck and a Riggins. They can play multiple positions.
Well, you start them out, first of all, with I'm always a believer of kind of maybe where they want to start with, where they feel comfortable. Dalton Baker will be a tight end. That's already been decided, and there's no question about that. But, you know, Mason and Joe, you know, Coach Clune will watch them run around, especially the first day or so, and be able to try to plug them into a spot. And our backers, first of all, they have to know all 4 spots. When they're young kids, we do try to hone them in on one spot so they can play sooner, and try to help that learning curve a little bit for those guys. And so we'll see. Number one, it'll be a combination of where they want to start, where they see themselves, and then really as we look at our depth coming out of spring, where are our guys? Because a lot of our veterans, because of their knowledge and their versatility, they can play multiple spots. Torrey Green can play inside, outside, and rover. I mean, Nick can play all 4. You know, LT's a Mac or a rover. Huerta right now is just a boundary. He could play the field. He's not gone inside yet. So we have some guys that can do both outsides, both insides, some that can do all 3 or 4. And so these young kids will try to hone in on where, from a depth chart standpoint, they could compete with reps. Because you got to worry about the reps early on. Because you got to have reps to compete, to be on the field as a true freshman, at least to be able to get an eval on them pretty quick. So be a combination of that, and Coach Clune will have a big say in that.
And Chance is your biggest guy in the class, but he's also your only defensive lineman so far.
Mm-hmm.
You expect any more that may trickle through, or is that just
Could.
not really where the need was?
Could. It wasn't really where the need was. It will be. That'll be another big area next year for us. Will be a bigger area, I should say. You know, and obviously he's going on a mission, so he won't be here for 2 years.
You've mentioned it. Is it the way social media is these days that we hear a lot more about it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's constantly, people are always telling me, oh, they read that this guy decommitted and he moved. And we heard a lot more of that this year, all over. Is it more happening, or is it just that we hear more about it because of social media?
Is there more decommitting?
Is there more decommitting going on?
I think so. I do. And I think social media is the cause of it. I do. Because I think you've got some kids out there, and I'm not going to say many, but you have some kids that just, man, they just love reading their name. And so I'm going to decommit, and I'm going to retweet every fan or every media person that writes my name, and I'm going to retweet it, and that's my name hitting one more time. And that's, you know, I don't know. That's appealing to some. And while that bothers me because of, you know, the I, some of that's society and some of that's caused. And I think that social media encourages that and causes that. But I'm not faulting social media, because I use retweets and tweets to brand and market our program. And, you know, whether it's Bobby Wagner and Robert Turbin and tweeting stuff they did, or our graduation rates, or how well our players are playing, or Zach Vigil and our young men that get selected for all-star games, and promoting the program. So I do the same thing for our program. It's no different. I'm going to use it as a tool because it's a powerful tool. But I do think that that's probably been the cause of some of it, because it seemed like there's been more decommits this year than in others. But you know what? It's a big decision for these kids, you know, probably besides who they marry, probably the second biggest decision of their life, you know. And so some kids handle it different, and some kids are getting different guidance at home. And so, you know, you move on. You know, if they choose to go somewhere else, you move on, and they choose your place. You know, if they're the right kid and the right fit, then you're excited about it.
Did you have more decommits this year than other years? Of people who said you're coming and then they didn't?
To Utah State?
Or
Well, we haven't had very many in the last few years that have decommitted, so maybe that's true, because we had a few this year. So, you know what? I'm gonna say it. I'll say it today. I'm a broken record. I say it in front of the recruits. I say it to parents, and you know, a lot of kids are jacked up. But I mean, guys, we've won 30 games in 3 years, and we won 3 straight bowl games. And there's not one kid on that piece of paper, and there's not one kid that decommitted that had anything to do with those 3 rings and those 30 wins. That's those kids on the first floor right now, and they're in that locker room. And that's the ones that are the most important. These are the next to most important, and the ones that decommit, yeah, we just wish them good luck as they move on. So kids want to come and be a part of what we're doing. We're going to continue to win games, because I don't think we need them if they're not here to win games. But I think we could win with a lot of them, even the kids that chose not to come here. I think we could win with. But I know this, we'll win without them, because we already have. So I believe in those kids in the locker room, and I believe in those kids on that paper that have stuck with us. And some of them have chosen to transfer. They've seen the light, and they want to come to Utah State. So we're happy to have them.
They joined your staff late, but what kind of an impact did Clune and Heupel have in the last push?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, just like I said at their press conference, and I said even last week to a reporter, I think it was going to be minimized, not towards them or because of them, but minimized because when they got hired, we didn't have very many spots left. And so there weren't a tremendous amount of decisions in the last 2 weeks. a handful. So I think that they had a hand in maybe solidifying some of these kids and kids saying no to other schools. And that doesn't get publicized a lot of times. You know, most kids don't get on Twitter and say, yeah, I just turned down so-and-so again. So-and-so came back in my school. And, I mean, we had a kid, and I won't tell you where, but we had a school send one coach in, and he says, are you still committed to Utah State? Yeah. Well, we want to bring you on a trip and offer you. No, I'm going to Utah State. Then the next week they send a different coach in, and he says, how committed are you? And he looked at the coach and said, I didn't know that there were levels of commitment, you know? And so does that mean he turned that school down in an offer and all that? Well, yeah. But the kid doesn't need to go out and tweet it. So did Josh Heupel and Kevin Clune and a lot of the rest of the guys on our staff have an impact on that? Yeah, I would like to say they would. They did because they were on the phone immediately with every kid that was committed and trying to keep their commitment. And sometimes, especially these days, keeping a commitment as hard as getting a commitment sometimes is fending off the wolves a little bit. But I'm never you win some and you lose some. We didn't get every kid we wanted, but the kids we got, I think, are very quality young men, first of all, and good players, and we're excited to get these guys that are on this sheet right here.
You didn't talk about the lineman from Hawaii.
Yeah.
I know he was one.
Yeah, Amu is, man, he is big. He's raw. He's athletic. You know, we had seen him in the spring from his junior tape and then saw him live in all poly camp this summer. And, you know, Webb really liked him. And of course, Coach Malloy has been recruiting him the whole time. And very athletic kid, had other opportunities and chose here. And I think kind of fell in love with Utah State and the culture here and our players. And we're excited about Amu.
Is there a guy on the list that maybe has a chip on their shoulder or somebody that you look at from today till fall camp that can really improve?
You know, I really think that we have a lot of those guys that have a chip on their shoulder, and you know, we hear that in recruiting, and you like those guys. I think we got guys in our locker room that got chips on their shoulder. I think we got some coaches in this building that feel that they got stuff to prove, and that's it. You know, as a head coach, that's what you want. I want coaches that got something to prove and that are motivated to learn and seek the best way to do something. And I want players that either feel like they're overlooked or that this is the place that celebrates their blue-collar mentality, the football junkie, the smartness, the versatility that other schools maybe aren't valuing as high. And that's the kid that we want that fits in this program. And so I think there's a lot of kids on there, and I wouldn't single them out, but I think there's a lot of kids that feel that way because I've heard them talk that way.
Going back to Cade Smith for just a second, initially, just how receptive was he to the thought of gray shirting, especially when maybe he had some other schools recruiting him, saying, hey, you can come in right now?
Yeah, that'd probably be a better question for him. I mean, he was pretty interested early. He flew out here twice on his own and came to see us, and offered him the opportunity, and he thought it through and prayed it through and had great family support and chose us. So, you know, he was very receptive.
Anything else, Coach Wells?
You touched on it a little bit, but just the overall kind of meat and potatoes aspect of this class, you know, with 5 offensive linemen and that kind of thing. Was that a really big focus for you guys going out and really searching out sort of those?
Yeah, just from a numbers wise, and it just happened that we were able to get, you know, a couple of the junior college kids in here right now at midterm. You know, when Ben Wysocki became available and showed an interest, you know, that's another kid that drove out of off this campus through the canyon, and by the time he hit the airport had 2 other Mountain West offers. I mean, no lie. I mean, so, you know, those kids, you know, I think that they're, you look at those 3, and then obviously, you know, Wade is going to be a mission kid that will be in here in 2 years, and Amu will be enrolling in January. So, you know, those guys are a little further. These guys are right now competing, and so I think it'll be good for our O-line. Give us some versatility. Obviously, Ben is kind of one and done. Told him he was kind of like a Kentucky basketball player, just on the back end, you know. But yeah, he's got summer. Yeah, we'll get him in here some. Are they? I don't know. Those guys are really good players. Yeah, so really good players. That's a good team too. I watched them the other night on TV. We're not talking hoops today, though, are we? Yeah, but I mean, both those transfers, Ben and Dallin, of course, is in here right now, and fully ingrained. I mean, he's in here watching. That guy's a junkie now. I mean, this guy, it just seeps through the pores of his skin, ball, and we kind of nicknamed him All Gas, No Brakes. And Devontae Robinson, glad he's on our team now. Kind of gave him a little headache during our game, but both those transfers, they're going to fit in really good here, And again, the guys that we've gotten a few of those 4-year transfers in the past, and they fit in here right very, very well. And I don't see any reason why those two won't either. Dallin will come in and transfer and have 2 years. So.
What positions do you envision Brooks being Hochul playing? Both tackles? Maybe
Always try to start them at tackle, and then move them inside. It's easier to go outside and in than inside out.
Coach, you touched on it a little bit already with the social media thing today, but I guess in recruiting these days, any more emotionally draining than it used to be for you as a coach? Yeah, because I'm the head coach. You got to recruit all of them. Yeah, I mean, starting, I as a head coach, you don't go out as much. Obviously, we're winning, and we're in those bowl games in December, and they've all been early bowl games, and so we've actually lost a few days as a staff recruiting in December. Of course, last year we're in the Mountain West Championship game, so we lost another week. But my days in December are very limited, 1 or 2 days, and it's always a JUCO midterm, and you're seeing their family, and it's fast. And then you're right back, and you're in bowl prep practices, and then this month of January, we went out on that Thursday, and then we had Sunday through Thursday and Sunday through Thursday, and I was out every single day. I mean, from the time that the recruits left campus Sunday morning, we were right back, either here out of Logan or out of Salt Lake, and getting back in Friday, and coming back in the office, and here's the next kids on an official, So, yeah, it's I love it though. I mean, I guess it's head coach. I don't know. I enjoyed it as an assistant. I enjoyed the ability to really present Utah State. I don't even think you got to sell Utah State. I enjoy presenting Utah State. Being an alumni, it's easy for me. I bleed Aggie blue, and a lot about this place. I don't know everything about Utah State, but I sure know a lot. And if I don't know something, I know the right person to call, and you figure it out. And when you're winning 30 games, 3 straight bowl wins, and you're one of 4 teams across the country that can say that. It gets people's attention, and people see how well we play on Friday night on ESPN and the bowl game and all that. And so I think, you got a little bit, some of it paved out before you when you walk in the living room, but it is draining. I mean, you're tired. You spend a lot of time on the phone. Our assistants they do it longer, really, than I do. I just, for me, it's just a lot more intensified and focused at the very end for the last 3 weeks. So, but I mean, if you don't love it and you're not good at it, there's going to be a new head coach up here. So, hopefully we can keep getting the right kids in and keep winning games.
Seems like the recruiting footprint is really getting established, nationwide in different places like Florida. Maybe the Northwest a little bit more this signing class. Is that Coach Laurie?
Yeah, Joe's got a big presence up there. First of all, he grew up there, and then he went to college and coached in Oregon. And he grew up in outside of Seattle. So he's got a lot of contacts. A lot of those high school coaches he went to school with, or they coached him. And so, yeah, his presence in the Northwest, I think, was felt in this class with the 2 signees.
But we were close on a couple others, and we're already ahead of the game really this year for the 216 kids up there too. And we watched a bunch yesterday, and we actually Monday. We started Monday and Tuesday with out-of-state 216s, and today we were still on 216 and 217 Utah kids, and so it's already, here it goes again. I mean, we're already back on, the next year's class and in 2 years. But Joe has done a really nice job. He's been down in San Diego, the Inland Empire, and then he's had the Pacific Northwest. And I think those kids, I think that's a good, right now, today, I think that's a good market for us in the Pacific Northwest, especially with Robert and Bobby, with their presence in Seattle. I think that's very obvious, but we're close enough that, I think that we can get in there and get the right kid to come to Utah State.
There is only one guy in Texas, and usually we've had a few.
Few more usually.
Was that just
Yeah,
down to the end that we didn't get? Or
No, sometimes that stuff happens. You end up taking or offering a kid maybe in another state or in-state, and they accept it first before a kid. And so sometimes that happens, and it can happen. Last year I think we had 4 from Texas, maybe 3 in the Metroplex, 1 in Beaumont. And, Devontae's a Texas high school player in Livingston, right outside of Houston, and Blinn Junior College, which is one of the best junior colleges in America every year. I think he's a big back that will come in and compete right now in spring, and gives us a big back presence, and hopefully he'll run behind his pads and be a really, really strong runner. I know he's got good hands, and his want to is there. But I wouldn't read much into only having one Texas guy. It just kind of fell that way.
Talk about what Chris Copier brings to the table real quick, please.
First of all, Chris Copier, in-state kid, in-state junior college. So he brings length. He brings the ability to play an inline tight end. I think he's got good hands. Right now I know just from what he's done so far in junior college, he's a short to mid-range play action kind of guy. We'll see how much vertical threat he's going to be, but he's a big inline guy that gives us some versatility, hopefully with some personnel packages to be able to play some more tight ends, and we'll see where he fits in the scheme with Wyatt and with Landon Horn.
Do you know where Heupel and Clune will kind of recruit more? Or they
Yeah, I kind of got an idea, but we haven't solidified it yet, so we'll wait. They'll both have a piece of in-state. They'll both be around in-state and have a little bit of in-state, and then we'll finalize, next week where they'll be exactly out of state. Anything else? Good? All right. Thanks, guys.